I am here with Mark Irvine from SearchLab. Mark, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Mark's decade of PPC experience has included analyzing data and spotting trends within over 30,000 Google, Bing, and Facebook ad accounts. Mark recently joined SearchLab as the Director of Paid Media. He regularly presents his research on trends in the PPC industry on webinars and at conferences around the world, and his work has also been featured on outlets such as the Washington Post, MSNBC, BBC, and CNN. Last year, Mark was named the most influential PPC expert in the world by both PPC Hero and Microsoft. Mark's going to be talking about personalizing your PPC campaigns for the new normal audiences that for this holiday season. Great to have you here, Mark.
Thank you again for having me, and really, I hope I can live up to that introduction. That's awesome.
Well, let's see. I'm really anxious to see your presentation.
Yeah, let's see. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Take us out of my gorgeous kitchen.
Yep.
Okay, we're up. I have the right thing?
Yes, all good.
All right, fantastic. So guys, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to talk about personalizing your PPC campaigns. So we talk about the new normal, right? 2020 is a really, really weird year. And what is new is many things, and what is normal is quickly shifting. But as it relates to personalizing what we do with our PPC, that is such an opportunity that I've seen in the industry for years. But a lot of advertisers, when they think about PPC or when they think about paid search, they think about keywords or they think about what people are searching for. Who they're searching for is a hugely missed opportunity. So I want to talk a lot about how we can take our paid search strategy in a dynamic time and really put it on its head. Before I dive into that, of course, I've got one other thing that I really want to talk about. You've already heard about it. I love talking about myself as well. So my name is Mark Irvine. I'm at SearchLab. I'm the new director of paid media at SearchLab. It's a fantastic role. I'm really excited to be there. I'm really excited to see what I can do with that team there. But before I was at SearchLab, I was at another company where I was a PPC data scientist. And that was a fantastic experience as well. I had access to over 30,000 Google, Bing, and Facebook accounts. So I was able to see not just what people were testing and how people were approaching paid search, but ultimately what made someone successful or what made someone struggle. I had the pleasure of doing that. I wouldn't say pleasure. I had the experience of managing those accounts throughout the beginning of COVID-19. I have a lot of trends that we saw both at the beginning of COVID-19 as we're entering a new frontier here in November as well. Did get the introduction, was voted the most influential PPC expert of 2019. But of course, we can't let the fact that that was 2019. 2020 was a completely different year. And I don't need to tell you guys about that. Obviously, here I am. This is my kitchen. If you told me that I would be presenting at e-commerce growth summit last year, I'd of course think that would be exciting. But if you told me I was going to do so in my sweatpants, I'd be shocked to hear that news. But here I am in my kitchen wearing sweatpants. It's a very different year. And of course, I've experienced it. We've all experienced it. But what we haven't really had the chance to do at any point in time, unless you've been a data scientist, is look at how that has changed the way that we search. As it turns out, having half of humanity under some kind of government mandate, some kind of new government mandate that people are atypical towards, has some meaningful impact, not just to what we do with our lives, not just to how we approach a quickly changing situation, but also how we search online. Very first and foremost, we see what we've been searching for has changed, and not just changed once and that was a one-time change, but what's changed throughout the year has been considerably different. When we look at the beginning of the year, of course, we saw in March and April, coronavirus-related searches became the single most popular searches on Google. That is, the searches for COVID-19 and for coronavirus overtook searches for the weather or for the news or for people searching for Google or Gmail or Facebook. It also became more popular than people searching for Pornhub, which is currently the #1 search in the world and is typically a very popular search. And so we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, people were reacting to the virus. And we saw that nearly 1 out of 4 searches, 25% of all searches, were for search terms that had never been searched for before. Is the highway open? Can I leave my house? Is McDonald's open? These are all searches that started happening at the beginning of pandemic in volumes that you had never seen before. What's really interesting is, of course, during the summer and as we bent the curve, a lot of these coronavirus searches really took a back seat. But as we're entering the fall and what we're hitting is the beginning of a global second wave, we're seeing a new type of search terms emerge. And a lot of the search terms that are emerging now are not necessarily related to COVID-19 or to the coronavirus, but instead they're related to the government's reaction to the pandemic. And so you're beginning to see searches like the lockdown and restrictions dominate the search terms, particularly over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And that's changing the way that we go about searching online. When we look internationally, we actually see there's a big difference in how A, different governments are reacting to this, but B, also how different people are searching for things with those government reactions. We see whereas broadly there's a lot of interest in our government's going to lock down or responding to a lockdown or responding to a new curfew. But in certain markets, most notably North America, but also Australia and Japan, people are searching with more interest towards the changing restrictions. And what's really interesting about that difference is, of course, a lockdown. We've all been through a lockdown, and we all kind of know the song and dance. We know that game, even if we dislike it. But within a restriction, there's actually a whole lot more questions about what is allowed and what is open and what is changing. And so a lot of customers, a lot of consumers are turning to Google to answer those kinds of questions, knowing the fact that it's not guaranteed that their local businesses that reopened are going to stay open, are going to still have the same operations or be able to operate not just in their country, but in a lot of places in their city, their town, their state, their province. As that changes locally, there's a lot of uncertainty, and people are going to Google to get that question answered. So what people have been searching for has changed considerably, but how we've been searching has also changed a lot. We can actually go in. Google actually keeps weekly mobility reports. You can quickly Google Google mobility reports. This is available here. I'm showing it for the United States. But what we're seeing is that because of the pandemic, regardless of whether or not the region is still open or it's locking down or restricting, we're seeing the fact that people are still spending less time out. People are still appreciably less mobile than they were before. And as a result, with people spending less time commuting or working outside of their home, we're seeing that with people being less mobile, mobile searches are actually down about 15% year over year. And that's a huge shift from what we've seen in the industry over the years. We've typically always expected mobile searches to continue to grow year over year. We've talked about this for about 5 or 6 years now. It's the year of mobile first. Most of Google's search traffic has always been mobile for the last 5 or so years. That's no longer guaranteed to be the case in all markets. As people are spending more time at home, desktop searches are up for the first time in many, many years. And we're seeing the fact that Google is quietly losing some market share, not because people are necessarily going and changing their search engine, but just because they're using a different device and very often using a Windows PC, that Bing is having an increased search traffic, whereas Google is having some compression within its own searches. Where people are searching for is also changing, particularly if you used to target the working professional. You're a B2B company. You may have been able to get away with targeting city hubs, financial districts, downtown areas of New York, Boston, LA, San Francisco, London, those kinds of centers of work, finance, and business. Now, with people often telecommuting, you're not going to be able to find the same employees, the same audience in the cities. A lot of them have moved out to the suburbs or even out to the country to go and enjoy a different kind of telework. And so with that, we're seeing the fact that, of course, people are spending less time outside their house. They're also spending less time in retail locations. Here in the United States, retail time spent in retail locations is down about 17%. And what's really interesting about that is, although people are spending less time in retail, we're actually seeing the fact that most shoppers are going to shop at a local business. And most shoppers are, in fact, spending more time browsing for gifts online. So we have this very interesting shift from what used to be this phenomenon of showrooming, where people would go to a store, see, experience product, and purchase, and continue learning about that product online and price shop and comparison shop online, and maybe even make that purchase online. Now we're doing the exact opposite. A lot more people are shopping online, browsing online, and then going to a store for buy online, in-store pickup, curbside pickup, or just going in and getting that one thing that they know that they've already researched in depth online. How advertisers can really address this is by using something called Google Local Campaigns. Google Local Campaigns are literally designed to put your ads on the map, specifically Google Maps, and the Google Map Pack ad here. The idea behind this is that when you have a local customer and they're making these kinds of searches, and then they begin to go and look for what's available near me to go and pick up online, you can highlight your store within the map pack, within the map results. And you can even begin to highlight the inventory if you have a merchant feed set up within your Google My Business profile itself. From there, you can include options for curbside delivery, buy online, pick up in store, shop in store if that's available, or if you're open to shoppers, or whether or not you choose to deliver. You can highlight all of this within this. It's a huge opportunity, particularly now in this time where people don't want to spend a whole lot of time in the store. Also, interestingly, when we search has changed a lot. And so we're probably familiar with the idea. I'm too familiar with the idea, unfortunately, of doom scrolling, going on your social feeds and scrolling, reading bad news, keeping you up late at night. Unfortunately, the term doom searching is growing as well. We see that a lot of people, we're all still searching. We're all very curious about the pandemic. We're all still learning what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. A lot of that mind share happens in the early or late hours of our search history. So we see the fact that searches for coronavirus and COVID-19 and related search terms are often peaking at about 7 a.m. local time and 11 p.m. local time. It's very often the first or the last thing we do before we go to bed. And what's really fascinating about that is, as people don't commute as much, as people have a different set of commitments in their day, we're actually seeing people have different search behavior for when they search. And so we're actually seeing that people are staying up later and they're more likely to search during off hours, which is interesting. It's not typical that you'll see a lot of people searching past 11 p.m. locally or into the early hours, but that's specifically where we're seeing the largest growth in search volume is during these really off hours that no one really had thought about previously. What's frustrating about that is combined with the fact that, hey, people are tired during the off hours and the fact that they're often searching for some bad news during those off hours, that doom searching happens during those off hours. These late hours are generally less productive searches. And we see that people who are coming during these off hours are about 30% less likely to convert than what they had previously done during your center core hours of when your business was open. So we're seeing the fact that things are shifting quickly, our customers are shifting quickly, and our customers are changing faster than ever before. This poses some really unique problems for retailers specifically, and some really great opportunities. What we've seen is that 3 out of 4 US consumers, but this is broadly true as well, 3 out of 4 US consumers have already purchased from a brand that they previously weren't loyal to during this pandemic. And so that's a really interesting shift. There's a lot of opportunity to reconsider who is your target consumer or who is your target customer. What's really interesting is the difference between those two, the target consumer and the target customer. And so I think it's a good place to begin to reconsider your customers. What we've actually seen is that during this pandemic, 40% of all baby product purchasers live in households without children. And so that's really fascinating if you're thinking about who's the match for your product. Of course, people who purchase baby products very often have a kid at home. The idea that so many people are making these purchases not for themselves or not for their family, but as a gift for someone else is really not just going to be dominant throughout the pandemic, but particularly dominant throughout the holiday season. So you really want to rethink your current customers or your new customers. I currently manage a brand, and they're a shampoo company, right? And so when you think of a shampoo company, you think of a shampoo ad even. Everyone in that company, every ad you've ever seen with shampoo is that woman who's having that best shower of her life. They think of their target customer as primarily female, right? And so they go out, they create the ad creative, they target their campaigns for that female customer. Um, and yet, we know the fact that many men have hair. We know the fact many men use shampoo. So there's a lot of beautiful opportunity to discover new personas here. We were able to go in Google Analytics. On your Google Analytics, you have this very special tab for audience with a wide range of behaviors for us to go in and look at. But we can see not just their age and their gender that I show here, but things like their in-market audience status, things that they might be purchasing online, a lot of interesting behavior about our audience here. And we're right. Most of the people who are coming to our site were coming to our site and they were female. But when we look at how men were behaving on our site, we actually saw the fact that men were about 50% more likely to convert, which is a fantastic opportunity. They were coming to our site for an intentional purpose. And when they did make a purchase, they spent about 4 times as much per transaction. All said and done, by changing our ads to cater for the males, we increased that revenue there by an additional 33% just by targeting a different demographic. There's a lot of opportunity in Google Ads to go in and personalize your campaigns based off of these demographics. A lot of people don't realize the depth of demographic targeting that even Google search has. Age, gender, income, education, parental stage, homeowner, relationship, remarketing, and market. There's a lot of opportunity here, not just to target a new audience, but to even personalize your ads. Previously at a florist, I was running this ad during Valentine's Day. They were running this ad, special Valentine's Day gifts, spend $100 and get a free box of chocolates to sweeten up his or her day. The ad's not bad, but that his or her day seemed pretty impersonal. So what we did is we ran this ad against two variants. One ad we showed exclusively men, the other we showed exclusively a woman. And we just changed one word in the ad. Men saw an ad that read, "Find the perfect gift for her." And women saw the exact same ad with the opposite gender pronoun switched out. It's a small semantic change, but that little bit of personalization was enough to make a big change. The old ad, it had a decent click-through rate, it had a decent conversion rate, but the new ads had a click-through rate of 60 and 30% higher, and in both cases, more than double the conversion rate. So just by making small semantic changes to our ads and thinking about the demographic behind it, we're able to make big changes to our own ads performance. Now, keeping our customers is going to be harder than ever this year as well, because that stat, 3 out of 4 customers were willing to try a new brand, does mean that brand loyalty is going to be difficult for most of us. And 40% of our customers are going to be using a different method than when they've used in the past. This isn't going to be the case where they're going to come in and do the same thing that they did last year, because in many cases they can't. So we really want to think about how we can re-engage with our best audiences here, and particularly our past customers, because we know that the people who are familiar with us, they're more than twice as likely to click on our ad, and our past buyers 5 times as likely to click on our ads. And similarly, 25% more likely to convert, and our past customers 5 times more likely to convert. That gives us a really unique opportunity. If we just think about our current customers and how we focus on marketing to them, we can increase them coming to our site by 5-fold and converting to our site by 5-fold just by marketing to them. All said and done, that's a 25 times increase in our same store sales by thinking about how we market to that audience directly. What I'd advise is thinking about your holiday audiences specifically, particularly thinking about not just who's recently been to your website or viewed products or purchased from you recently, but you're able to go and you're able to create a remarketing list based off of who purchased from you last November and December, last holiday season, and target that audience very specifically. Within your remarketing audience, you can use your CRM data or your sales data to go in and create a special audience based off of who purchased from you last year. Or even within Google, if you don't have that historical data, there are 2 new holiday in-market audiences for the Black Friday shoppers and the Christmas shoppers as well. And using this, we can not just target them, but again, give them a little bit different of an ad experience by using what's called an if statement. An if statement is going to allow us to serve a slightly different message to our ads based off of who's searching for us in our audience lists. And so an if statement, it will look a little clunky when you first write it in Google Ads. It's going to read this particular way, and it will look a little bit different than your other ads. But effectively, when Google reads an if statement, it knows that what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to serve 2 separate ads, depending on who is in my audience, who is making this search. And here, if I have my 2019 holiday shopper, my last year holiday shopper, and my first-time searcher that is unfamiliar with my brand, I'm telling Google I want it to serve a slightly different ad. And that is, if someone is coming through and they search for me and they're in my audience list of my 2019 holiday shopper, then after the comma, I want to serve that ad that reads free holiday delivery or free holiday gift delivery. I'm going to assume that this person who hasn't engaged with my site, hasn't purchased from me in the past 12 months, is now making a search because they're looking to buy another holiday gift again. And I want to sell them exactly what they're looking for. Now, if they're not in that audience list, then after the colon, I'm going to serve them this different ad, browse our suite assortments. That small difference in language, again, it's a small difference in how we're writing this ad. If you didn't see behind the curtain here of what this ad looked like, you probably wouldn't, as a searcher, realize the difference or realize that small difference in semantics of what I'm selling you here. But we see that that's a small difference. And last year, when we used this approach, that small difference of approaching the holiday audience increased the click-through rate of that audience by about 40%. So it's a very small difference in a way to target a very specific customer base. And of course, thinking beyond just, hey, our new demographics and our old audiences that we need to keep loyal, we're entering this world where everyone has a completely different need than what they may have needed 9 months ago. And so even a search like for headphones is a very, very dynamic thing that when you serve an ad for headphones, you serve an ad to everyone who's searching for headphones. The challenge with that is that everyone who is searching for headphones is slightly different, and that everyone has a different need behind this, whether or not they care a lot about the audio quality, or if they're a commuter, they're a frequent traveler, they care about whether or not they're going to be able to get noise cancellation. Some people, when they search for headphones, they're looking for that $9 pair of headphones that you get at 7-Eleven. Other people are looking for holiday gifts. Other people are looking for themselves. And as it relates to COVID, a lot of us have varying sensibilities and different senses of risk that we're willing to go into a store, pick up online, or do curbside pickup. The challenge with serving an ad to all of these people is it's very difficult to write one ad, even with 300 characters of text, to speak to all of these needs. And so we're going to hit this issue that no single ad can be perfect. Instead of trying to write a one perfect ad, we really need to start thinking about how to write different ads for this different personas. And so this is a good opportunity for us to review our personas. And if we haven't built a list of personas, really think about what are the kinds of people who are searching for us, and what do they need? What's unique about the athlete? What do they need, and what do we need to message them to tell them that we can support that? Some people, we're always going to have a mass market audience. That audience is always going to be sensitive to price. That's always going to be a valuable thing to include in our ads. But beyond that, what's the last minute gift giver need? They need to know that they can pick it up right now. Whereas someone who is very COVID conscious and is very risk adverse is going to not want just to pick it up, but they're going to want options about curbside delivery or 2-day delivery or what kinds of other options we have. The idea here is that we want to write a variety of messages for a variety of different personas. And quite frankly, just by writing a different ad, focusing on a different part of the message for each one of these personas, testing multiple ads is often enough to be successful and have Google match that new ad to that particular user. We see that just by writing more ads, ad groups that have more ads have about a 20% higher click-through rate, even if not every ad in there is a winner. Just by having that opportunity to serve a unique ad to a unique person gives us a whole lot of opportunity to optimize here. Responsive search ads are a beautiful way to do this at scale. So responsive search ads, you can provide up to 15 headlines and 4 different descriptions. Google will automatically test different variants very quickly. 15 headlines and 4 descriptions make up 43,000 different variations of your messaging. No one, hopefully, is going out and testing 43 separate variations of your ads. Responsive search ads make that testing a lot more efficient. And with that massive amount of variance, it makes it a lot easier for Google to serve the right message to the right audience without all the manual work here. Beyond the text within our ads, there are also a lot of new great features, particularly I highlight here image extensions. Image extensions are new. They kind of were snuck into Google without a lot of fanfare, but what it does is allows us to include a product image or an image from our website right within our ads, our search ads themselves. And on average, we see that by including a picture of these noise canceling headphones in our ad here alongside all the language about it, that draws a lot of eyes to our ad and it increases the click-through rate by about 5% when you compare it to just a regular standard text ad. So there's this huge opportunity for a lot of people are sleeping on image extensions without even knowing that it's there. It's not only just there on Google, but it's there in Bing as well. So there's a lot of great opportunity to take advantage of images in your ads as well. So guys, I spoke about a lot very quickly. I realize I'm coming up on time, but I do want to quickly recap what I talked about today. It's really important that when we think about this season, we're going to see a very diverse new customer set, one that we're not typically used to. That's a great opportunity, not just to welcome them as new customers, but to cater our ads and our ad campaigns to target those kinds of demographics. As we think about how we generally do our holiday shopping, we need to make a focused effort not just to get that new audience, but also re-engage with past holiday shoppers. This is a really great opportunity to create a separate audience for people who have purchased from us from the past, and specifically during the holidays last year, and think of ads targeting them directly. And finally, we can't rely on the same ad copy that we were using a year ago here. We want to test out multiple and different ads with varied messages. Responsive search ads are going to really help us scale that messaging and reach the right person with the right message at the right time. And with that, I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank OmniConvert for hosting today. My contact information is right there, and you can, of course, follow me on social as well. So guys, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mark. It was an amazing presentation. So much taken. Thanks for everything.
Of course.
Let's see if we have any questions from the public. There doesn't seem to be something now. I do have one question that is not 100% tied to your presentation, but rather it's a curiosity of mine. How long do you leave the attribution window to stay on usually in ads, and why?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing that people have to think about is keeping it consistent across all of their sources. So you want that to be consistent across not just Google Ads, Microsoft Advertising, and Facebook, which again, Facebook has a different attribution window by default than Google, of course.
Yeah.
But also answering that question with like Google Analytics and all the other systems that you're using. If you're doing email marketing, if you're doing TV. Broadly, I think that a lot of people would be surprised at how long it takes for people to make a purchase. As a default, I think 30 is pretty appropriate and pretty safe. But if you're curious, like we're all looking at different products, a car, for instance, like might take a month to 2-month conversion cycle. You can actually go in, if you're really curious about this, into your Google Analytics under attribution and look at your time lag report and see like how long it takes between their first interaction and that final click. If you see the fact that you still have a lot of searches, a lot of conversions after 30 days, that's more of the argument for expanding that conversion window. I try to always have a conversion window that captures 95% of my conversions, knowing the fact that like some of them are going to take like surprisingly long. That shampoo customer, for instance, actually has a conversion window of 45 days because for whatever reason, a lot of those men who are shopping for someone else do come to their site, they start searching, they kind of have to like go back to their wife, significant other, girlfriend, whatever, and then like have that conversation like, what shampoo do you use? So it's a surprisingly long conversion window. So like check out your time lag report in Google Analytics would be my biggest piece of advice.
Awesome. Cool. Well, unfortunately, we won't have any more time for other questions, but thanks a lot, Mark. It was a wonderful presentation.
Absolutely. Guys, I hope to see you next year in a different setting.
Hopefully, yeah. All right. So take care and thank you. Thanks once again. We will be
Absolutely.
right back after these messages.